Welcome back to the huddle. We're here to dive into the written word of the world, to learn is what we can, to apply how we can. I'm here today with a great friend. He's been a guest on this podcast before, but his insight, his depth, his energy, really caught everybody's attention when he was on here before. So we wanted to bring him back and go into this book that he is truly passionate about. He actually brought it up the first time we talked. So welcome back, Marcell Jackson. How you doing, man?
I'm well. I'm well. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Definitely, man. And the energy that you put behind Deep Work by Kyle Newport, I knew we had to get into it. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I knew we
Yeah.
had to. So that brings me to my first question. I like to dive right into why did you select this book? What hits you about this book?
Yeah. It was so much about this book. I'm an audiobook fanatic. So I like to listen, but a lot of the things that he was speaking about, just in terms of deep work and how we really enter this phase of just being hyper focused and everything else. And I was able to read this in the midst of the pandemic during quarantine, where it's like, hey,
Plenty of
we're all
time.
yeah, plenty of times, but there's a lot more distractions, right? So being able to now kind of put this in focus in the midst of everything going is it's pretty amazing. One of my virtual mentors, Marshall Fox, he's a graphic designer. He actually like recommended it to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, hey, if you need to get serious, if you need to get focused, like check out this book, Deep Work. So based off the strength of his YouTube recommendation, he didn't hit me up personally.
Yeah. I got
Recommended,
you. I got you.
but so that's what kind
Virtual.
of peaked it. And yeah.
So so before we get into it, because you said something that kind of triggered me, like during the pandemic, you said there were a lot of distractions. What did distractions look like to you in the pandemic? Because to me, I felt like even though I continued to go to work, I felt like I had plenty of time for like focus space. What type of distractions did you come across during the pandemic for yourself?
Yeah. Okay. Well, one, I have a toddler, 2.5-year-old son
That's
running
enough.
around. So yeah, so that's distraction central. That's one thing. And then two, so I've had the ability to work remotely,
Mhm.
but like in the past, but I'm like a social person. I'm an extrovert, so I loved going to the office and everything else. But just having to be here, there's
Right.
always something that needs to be washed or done, or a quick trip here, or going there, or just another show is there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was a lot of those things happening, and then my wife's here as well. So yeah, so maybe she wants to watch a show or do anything else. So it was just a lot more distractions there. Um, yeah,
I think somebody should sit down and do a podcast, and maybe this is a Kickstarter for me
yeah,
to do it. To have like we all just experienced or are experiencing this pandemic. Sit down with people who were stuck at home
mhm,
versus people who were out in the world, and just see how they experienced the same pandemic
yeah,
differently.
yeah.
I mean,
That's
and then
great.
you got the personality differences, like you just said, like
Yeah,
you're extrovert, I'm an introvert.
yeah,
So in my head, and I've never done anything for a year long, I'm like,
yeah.
that's love. That's exactly what I want to do. Please, thank you. Not pandemic, but just send me home where I can work. But then someone like you might
Yeah,
have the urge, the need to get around people just because it's nature.
yep,
So that's
exactly.
something I would like to dive into. If somebody else wants to do it, I'm willing to be on a panel, but it
Perfect,
should be
man.
should be interesting.
Tell them they got a podcast that you up.
That's right. So my next question is, when you first got into deep work, what was your understanding of deep work? Like, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so I haven't heard the term deep work before reading a book, but I know a lot of people just started to talk about flow, kind of
Mm-hmm.
being in your zone, being in that maybe for a musician in that creative space where you're just going, you're jamming out, or an artist just being in there. So I've heard it kind of in that sense in terms of just flow, just being super focused on one particular thing. So that's kind of where like immediately once I heard the term, that's what I was thinking about, like being in that state of just flow and focusedness where everything's kind of coming together.
I I feel you. In my athletic sports world, I'm glad you took it outside of like the work space.
Okay.
Like when I used to train, and maybe a lot of times I'd be by myself on the field. Like you just go into this space where I'm just focused on what I'm doing. I'm not worried about anything else, nothing else that is there to distract me. I'm getting tired, I'm doing whatever, but I'm focused on the growth that's in front of me, the opportunity that's in front of me. And that's to me what deep work is all about, is like getting rid of all the distractions the world has. And it is billions of distractions in this world.
Yeah.
But to be able to isolate yourself, your mind, and dive into the work that you have in front of you. And we'll talk about MILAN a little bit later, but it just shows that the intensity and focus into diving into the deep work is where some really quick and exponential growth can happen. So to me, once I started to grasp what he was getting at, I was like, yo, this is powerful. And I need to do it more. But
Yeah.
before you read this book and knowing what deep work is now, had you experienced or accidentally put yourself into a deep workspace?
Yeah, so I was kind of infamous for like protecting my calendar. So, and I had times where usually Fridays, everyone everyone's happy. People are
Yeah.
leaving the office a little early and everything else. But for me, like especially maybe since like 2014, that's my work days. I'm like, yo, nobody's hassling me about emails, nobody's messaging me, nobody's doing anything. I'm like, I can get a lot done on Fridays,
Yeah.
right? So I was the person actually there until like 5 o'clock on Friday, just working. But then, the rest of the week I'm good because everyone else is like taking it easy. They're doing their shallow work, right, instead of deep deep work. So yeah, so I've definitely experienced that
Define
before.
shallow work real quick.
Yeah, so Cal talks about it in the book, but shallow work is pretty much distracted work. So you're going because we're all like victims of distraction,
Right.
or like willing participants in distraction. But yeah, so you're getting stuff done, or you're multitasking, right? So you're in a
Right.
meeting, but you're sending an email, or you're going to go
You're
look at this
texting.
project
Yeah.
site, yeah, but you're also texting. So you're meeting with a client, but you have like an AirPod in and you just got finished listening to a podcast. So yeah, and any of that where you're not just truly focused on one thing. So I think shallow work is just either distracted working or multitasking, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So after reading the book,
Yeah.
and you heard about the monastic, the bimodal, the rhythmic, and the journalistic. Monastic is considered like, hey, look, I'm blocked out. They said that uh what's the author of Harry Potter?
Yep, J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling
Yep.
booked herself in a hotel room for 8 weeks, just like non-stop work. That's the monastic type deep work. But then you got the bimodal, which is like, okay, I'm gonna work 3 days and then I'm gonna chill for a couple days. And I'm gonna work 2 days and I'm gonna chill. So it's like diving in, but then giving yourself the space to step out and I guess regroup. They said that rest is the payment of deep work. Like when you go deep into your work, you got to get your rest so you can get back into it. Then there's the rhythmic where you have a set time every day. I'm gonna do this for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. And that's just your 10 o'clock. I looked at all my emails already. I'm shutting everybody out. I'm in my space until 12, until lunchtime, something like that. And then journalistic, I didn't really grasp like how journalistic was. Is it like sporadic? Because journalists are always ready to
Yep.
dive into the story.
Yep.
Okay. So I grasped it a little bit.
Yeah, you got it. You got
Yeah.
it.
So what's your
Yeah.
style?
Yeah. So my style, yeah, I would love if I could just go turn my phone off, just go away from where for 8 weeks, get a whole bunch of things done. Like
Done.
that would be love, but that's not realistic at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think mine's changed a little bit. So it used to be more so bimodal. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll have my like focus days, like I talked about Fridays, like,
Yeah.
hey, I'll get a lot of work done. Let me carve out this time and be productive. But I'm doing that knowing that, Monday I'm chilling. Everybody's just mad on Monday. I'm like, oh,
Right. Right.
I'm
I'm
good. I ain't
good.
doing no
I
deep
got
work today.
everything
I'm
done
doing all my
already.
shallow work. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that would happen. But I think kind of as I transitioned into parenthood, I went a little bit more into that journalistic. So it's times where either like my wife has them or he's napping. And I'm just like, yo, I got 2
I
hours.
gotta get it in. I
Let me
gotta
go.
get it
I'm doing
in.
this. I'm doing that. I'm doing
Yeah.
this. If I gotta, whatever. Like I'm trying to make sure I get all of this work done. And I would sometimes strategically schedule either like meetings with people to like working meetings or anything else where I could be a little bit more in thought, in
Right.
depth. Like I'm doing that during those times.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it changed a little bit for me, but yeah, journalistic is just like, oh, I got an hour. Oh, I got time back from
I
this.
mean,
Oh, they canceled this.
yeah.
Hey, let me
Dive.
go. Let me get this done, and
Yeah.
I'm in there. So yeah, besides me,
I think journalistic is like honestly the mastery of deep work, because like you said, like life doesn't slow down for us at all. Everything is
Facts.
always moving. Your kid is going to want to eat, your kid is want to do something, your wife is going to want to do something, work needs you to do something, but
Yep.
then you find a crease, an opportunity to dive in and you ready for it. Like me, I'm not there yet, man. I need to like, hey, 10 o'clock. It's really high. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, when I get to work at 7, for these first 3 hours, I'm getting emails. People send me something they need for the day. At 10 o'clock, I don't want to talk to nobody. If I could, I shut my door, but we can't do that because it's always somebody needs something. But
Makes
10
sense.
o'clock, I'm like, yo, I need space so I can really make some progress today. And I need that every day. I need that repetition. I'm a very scheduled person.
Okay.
I try to do the same. I try to do everything the same way so I can make sure I make progress in multiple areas. But I want to be able to grow to that journalistic uh, style, because life is not always structured.
Yes.
We have a plan all the time, and then something throws it off completely. I mean, today we had at work, we had everything scheduled. It was supposed to be a beautiful day, a beautiful Friday.
Okay. Yeah.
Man, 8:30 in the morning, we get an email with an image that we gotta go crazy and fix it and find it. Like, you don't even know
Wow.
where it is in the building, but you gotta go find it and fix it, find whatever sub. I'm like, I had my day set up.
It was supposed to go this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that journalistic will still give you the opportunity to, when everything dies down. When I got home today, I had, all right, cool. I got an hour before I need to get with Marcell, before I need to get with my wife, dive in, get some work done. But I think that's how we have to adapt to life. But I guess my baby steps are the bimodal right now.
Makes sense. Do you think just kind of flowing off of that, do you think that's a little bit because you're so like involved in sports and not so much on a schedule? Like you have your morning workouts, your afternoon workouts, you're doing this, you're doing that. Do you think that kind of transferred into your professional life?
Man, 100%. Like
100%.
I could recount my freshman year of college,
Yeah.
like 6 a.m. workouts, 7 o'clock I was eating, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 I was in class. 1 o'clock I was at lunch eating the calf. 2 o'clock I was watching film. 3 o'clock getting ready for practice. 4 o'clock practice. 4 to 7. 7 o'clock we was at dinner. 8 o'clock study hall. 9 o'clock back to the room. That was a whole year pretty much.
Yeah.
But that was how I was trained, and it was ingrained in me. Like, all right, put a schedule together, and you got to be here on a certain time. Give yourself the opportunity at this time to do whatever you need, because you're not gonna have a whole lot of time. So yeah, I mean, I guess the real world will get me out of that, but that's where my training was. It was scheduled.
Okay, that makes sense, man.
Makes sense, huh?
That makes sense. Yeah, me not being an athlete at all. In college, it's like, yo, I got this class, I got that class, I got this break. So I'll either choose to go do work. So, sometimes I'll leave the engineering building, go straight to the library. Like,
right.
Let me go finish some stuff real quick before I go home, because I'm going to sleep. I'm gonna get distracted, everything else. So I think I kind of started to embed some of that there. So cool. That's interesting.
That's wild, man. Cause like in college, if you're on the campus with somebody else, y'all both are on the same campus, but your lives are completely different. I mean, that's how it is in the real world. But like we're both at A&T on the same campus, taking the same classes for the most part.
Facts. Yeah.
But our lives are so different. And they're as molding us at the same time differently, even though we're working in the same space.
Exactly.
And honestly, that's why I feel like we gotta have these conversations, because like, yo, I know Marcell's my dog, but
yeah,
Marcell lived a completely different life. Even though we was in the same space, I can learn so much from Marcell, because I was doing this, learning these lessons. He was doing that, learning those lessons. And we talk Hey,
Yep.
you
Come on,
grew,
man. Come
you
on.
grew, I grew, we grew.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about, man. Elevation.
exactly. Elevating each other.
Yep.
So diving into you brought up me being an athlete and working out. This term myelin, like when I first heard the term and what they said is when you dive into the deep work, you start to get this white tissuey film on your nervous system, and what it does is it help produce your signals a lot faster. So when you visualize myelin, what did you see?
Yeah, pretty much. When you're working out, they're talking about like muscle memory, right?
Right,
So this is a little bit like that, but a little different.
a
It's
little
just saying
different.
like, yo, like when you're doing these things, like like your brain is just pretty much like starting to get better at some of these things, and now you're getting better and you're getting faster at doing some of these things because you're doing so much deep work. So your brain's like learn it from itself. So I kind of, if I'll be a little techie for a little bit, kind of like machine learning.
Uh-huh.
Like it's going, the machines are starting to learn from itself, from its past behaviors. So that's what your brain is doing. So that's kind of how I equated it when I first heard of it.
All right, let me bring it down from the
Oh,
techie world. Let me
go
bring it
ahead, go
down.
ahead, do it for me, do that.
So what I thought about is like you dive into something that you don't know. It's like diving into a maze. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know which way to turn. You don't know which way to go. You honestly don't even know what the cheese at the end is supposed to look like or be.
Yeah.
But if you dive in and focus, you'll go through, you'll make the wrong turns and then you'll make the
Mm-hmm.
right turn, but you'll remember why you made the right turn and where it was. And then eventually when you start diving in, you start moving efficiently and you get to the goal a whole lot quicker. So then in my head, it was like the myelin was that that is like a white cloud of memory, really.
Yeah. Okay.
That whenever I'm about to make that, or maybe like the cartoon characters that have somebody on their shoulder.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm going through this maze. You about to make a left? Ah, remember we made that left already. Go to the right. Oh, there's the slide. Don't go down there. Like
Yep.
it's that thing that's building, and as you dive in, that little person, that little cloud is growing with you. So you're moving even faster. You're almost anticipating what's coming your way because of the deep work, the intensity that you put into diving into whatever information or working out. Because honestly, it's the same thing.
Yep.
I start building those muscles. I start building that cloud around me. All right. I know my body's about to fatigue at 12. All right. Let me slow it down and breathe. Simple things like that as you move through, it's that myelin that's building around your nervous system to help you move a lot faster through everything that you're trying to get through. I know that was a lot, but
Cool. No. I'm here. I'm here for the breakdown.
yeah. That's
We
that's what I
got it.
saw
We got it.
when I started going through it.
Yeah, that's a good
So
analogy.
honestly, when I was going through this book, I remember the conversation that we had a long time
Oh,
ago. It was probably, and I want to ask you, when did you first read this book? Because it was probably about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and you were talking about like you were like clearing out your space, and you was like, I'm only working these 8 hours, and I'm gonna get everything I can get out of these 8 hours. I'm not going off on these tangent talks. I'm not going looking at my phone. I'm focused on what I got to do today so I can get these 8 hours. I'm like, man, bro, I'm working 10-hour days. Like it's nothing. That's all I ever do. And you like, man, I'm getting all 8 of mine. I'm getting out of here. But it's because of the focus. It sounded you had learned from deep work. And I don't know if you were ready by then at all, but
uh,
you did.
nah, I read this
Uh,
in February
did you remember that
2021.
conversation?
So yeah, I remember it. Yeah, it was more so just being a little bit better with my time
Uh,
in general. So I do a lot, a whole lot.
a whole lot.
But I wanted to make sure that, hey, while I'm here, I'm doing what I need to do, and then I'm gone, right? Because I have other stuff to do.
Yeah.
And before I found myself kind of, wasting time, not really doing anything, kind of like just casually going along at work and everything else,
Right.
just like, okay, cool. Either this is gonna be super long, I'm not gonna deliver on what I need to deliver on, or I'll be rushing at the last minute, similar to like cramming for a test or something. It's like, nah, let me go, let me be super focused, let me get this done, and then I can be out. That way I can go focus on something else. So that's kind of that was the space I was in at that time.
What I guess triggered that, because it's so easy to get lost in what you do on a regular basis. Like I can be honestly, I have to talk to myself. Like the only reason I look at my phone is if it lights up. So I turn my phone away from me. But like you can get lost in just letting your phone show up. You look at it every time. Like what was the trigger for you to actually evaluate what your time was getting, where it was getting wasted?
Yeah, so man, about a year and a half ago, a lot
Alleged.
was I was changing. Yeah. So so my son's 2.5 now, right?
Yeah.
So that was happening. And yeah, I just got to the point where I wanted to make sure that I'm making time for him, I'm making time for my wife, I'm making time for all other things that I want to do, right? That help me fulfill my purpose. And I realized that when I let one slip, it starts to spew into other areas. So I kind of had that realization, like,
Yeah.
let me go, like, let me get a little bit better at some of these things and watch everything else kind of tighten up. That didn't last long, but
Hey, you got to start somewhere and learn somewhere
exactly,
too.
like at least I started, man. So
Yeah. No, that's cool because one is introspective of life changing around you. You got a new kid, a new son coming into the picture. Not another one, but the when you did have one.
yeah.
Um, and you're still, I mean, you're not a vet in the marriage game, but you're still growing in the marriage game, you're still
Yep.
growing at work, and life is still changing for you. So it's to me, it's easy to fall victim to, all right, let me just do enough because then I still gotta have me. But for you to say, oh, all the things that I want to do can be done, but now I just have to be more strategic and deliberate with my time. And then
Yep.
how do I do that? Like that's transcendent because honestly,
Man.
it can create so many opportunities and it's disciplining yourself for everything that is can come to your life. Like that's Marcell.
Thank you. I mean, once you realize, like, time is that one thing you can't get back, right? You can
Yes,
make you can
yes,
make money. It's no
yes.
limit to that. Like, you can do other things. Like, you can work yourself to death, but like time, like
Can't get
once
it
you
back.
realize, like, yeah, like it's fleeting. And I think the other part of that is being intentional with who you're spending time with. So I think as we grow, as we transcend, right, as we evolve,
Yeah.
yeah, like everybody just can't get my time, right? You just say, like, you just keep your phone covered and everything else. So certain people you're responding to, and certain people you're not. So yeah. So once you start to think about time, it's just
I think
like,
I'm lucky.
yeah.
I'm lucky. I get
Oh
Marcell.
yeah, you got it, man. I'm here for you and the
Nah,
people.
that's real though. That's
Yeah.
real. Figuring out what really is important. Because time is precious, time is valuable, time is honestly all we really have.
Mm-hmm.
What you do with it will be your legacy, will be your impact, will be you. I say when you're dead and gone, everybody will remember the time that they had with you and the time that you had on this earth. What did you do with it?
Yep.
So for you to understand the value of that time and to direct it to those intentional spaces, I feel it always goes back to me to like, what are my goals? And we reevaluate our goals all the time. Do I
Yeah.
want to have a happy home? Do I want to be a boss at work? Do I want to blah, 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 blah. And you set those goals and then you define where your time gets spent to achieve those goals. It seems
Makes
like
sense.
it seems like God, family, community
Yep.
is your order, and I respect it immensely.
Got you.
Um,
Got you. Got you.
so
Appreciate it.
you had that mindset before you read this book, and it wasn't necessarily intentionally deep work,
Yeah.
but after you read this book, how have you seen the progress in your life, in the home, at work, your business, the community, that involvement that you have?
Yeah, man. I was, like I said before, like reading it, I was like, yo, I do a lot of this little stuff, right? But I don't
Mhm.
necessarily do it all the time. So yeah, so being intentional, putting the phone on, do not disturb, just like, okay, hey, I'm gonna give myself X amount of time to do this, and
Yeah,
then kind of keep going. And I think part of it is maybe call it like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like now you're giving yourself this time limit. So now you're about to go and you're about to achieve it and kind of keep going. So I think a lot more of just that, just being a little bit more intentional with some things and really focused. So I know they also talked about kind of chaining, so doing like one thing every single day
yeah,
until you build that habit. So even
yeah,
if it's like 30 minutes of focus time, let's go, let's get that going. Even my wife, she's infamous for that too. Like, hey, I just need some uninterrupted work time for this amount of time, and then gone. And then she's like, yo, I got so much done. So I mean, even talking to her, sharing, and kind of because we're talking a little bit more about working and making sure that we're because we get distracted, right?
Right.
So yeah, so just making sure that we're there and we're delivering. So doing that, and I think now I speak a little bit more about deep work, and now I'm starting to identify people doing distracted work. I'm like, like
You're not really.
he
Yeah.
distracted, like he ain't did no deep work today. So
Yeah.
not in the judgment sense, but as you go and start to see like what deep work and everything else looks like, you start to notice the trend. You see the people who are always on their phone or always just talking, not really getting. It's just like, and you see the same people like, yo, they didn't get this done, like, yo, they should probably implement some things to really get focused.
Right.
And again, I'm not judging anyone, but like once you know something, now you're able to
Exactly.
see,
You
like
see.
just like
You
you're
see
able to see the
differently.
deep work, you see like the shallow work as well. So
Right.
yeah, and I
So
check myself now. I'm like, oh, that was some
that
shallow
was some
work.
shallow
Like that
stuff
was
right
some
there,
unplanned shallow work. So
bro. I actually feel the same way after reading or while reading this book. I started to
okay,
reevaluate like my own actions, but then
yeah,
I also started to look at other people's actions. Like, and I always knew people that may not be as focused, but
yeah,
like I'm like, okay, now I can identify it's distracted work. Yeah, they're making some progress, but the same type I'm gonna call them failures at work occur
okay,
over and over because the intensity and depth isn't intentional in what they're doing. And honestly, I catch myself in the same space, and I have to. It's good now to know. Now I can,
yeah,
hey, snap
yeah.
back. We got to
Yeah.
focus.
And that's interesting from you, even from a professional perspective. Like you're a manager. So like like you're managing people. So so you seeing people doing shallow work. I'm a coworker. Like I don't manage anybody.
Man, I'm
Right.
still a
So if I'm
coworker too, man.
yeah, man. Okay, cool. But I'm just saying, even from that kind of leadership perspective, even like
Right.
managing teams directly, indirectly, right? Kind of how does like have you changed anything as far as like deep work, shallow work, kind of yeah, like leadership ability, just kind of talking to people, or has it just been kind of internalized for self first?
I feel
So
like because I'm still relatively new in my industry, but and being new always creates it creates a little doubt and a little, I guess, less confidence.
okay,
But understanding that the way that I help people is by being able to guide them to the right knowledge or presenting them with the right knowledge. So me being able to dive deeper into the work that I'm doing in my deep workspace allows me to have more confidence to lead them to the right information, the right dimensions, the right location. I
yeah,
go, that's how I've seen it. I mean, I read this book this past month, and I've already seen some differences in the type of conversations I've had because I've had those moments where I'm like, look, I'm diving into this
mm-hmm.
electrical issue,
Yeah,
this underground issue. I'm diving in. I'm trying to understand what the cause was, what the possible solutions are, and then we can go have a much more confident, intelligent conversation because I've given myself all the intensity into finding the information. When before it'd be like, oh, I've seen that before. All right, we could probably do it like that, but I'm not really focused.
yeah,
Every situation is different,
yeah,
so you got to attack it that way and bring the same intensity in each different situation. So yeah, I've seen. I just actually had a sub call me right before
okay,
we got off, and I had done something today because I was in that deep work space to find
mm-hmm.
some information for him.
Yeah,
And he hit me back with some numbers, but before I would have been like, yeah, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I know just about what it's going to cost, but us diving into the root issue, we found another issue, which gave us the opportunity to find a more solid number to present once we do.
okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're pretty much like showing up as your higher self, and then they directly benefit from that. That's pretty cool.
We directly benefit from it.
We,
Always
you
we,
got it,
man.
man. Come on,
Always we,
see, a real leader. You got it. A good manager.
man. So I wanted to know, like, Marcell, you're doing some great things in this
Okay.
world.
Yeah.
Um, Give me some like real life um production, or what has this deep work produced for you? Like, not a theoretical, I worked hard and it came true, but like, what actually has it produced in your life?
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's talk about even I'll give you just a couple variations of this, but from a professional perspective, just really going into project management.
Mm-hmm.
So getting my project management certificate and really diving deep into that and having like focused time
Yeah.
with that. So I was able to go and achieve that, definitely by doing a little bit every day. So I'm like, yo, I'll read a chapter a day, I'll quiz myself a day, and then I'll pick up the next one. Before, I would say I was just, yeah, like stretching out a year before that, passive, doing this and doing
Yeah.
that. I waited literally until the course that I needed to take ended in October. I like finished it in September. Like I had a whole year to
Yeah.
finish it, but just dragging along. But I'm like, okay, let
Right.
me get a little bit of urgency.
That P
Let me
word.
focus. Yeah, exactly. So let me do a little bit here. So I was able to go, kind of successfully do that by instilling that. Second, just as an entrepreneur, for my clients, I'm really able to really shut out everything. Not to say that I wasn't doing a great job and producing high quality resumes for them and everything else, but now I'm really taking a little bit more time, spending more time, maybe just talking to them about what their true goals are.
Right.
So making sure that when I'm with them, I'm like I don't be texting anyway, but still, sometimes you get a text,
Yeah,
you
you
look,
just deep in there.
I'm just like, okay, let me turn the phone off, turn the phone over like Wallace, and
Yeah.
just do everything. But spending a little bit more time kind of with them to make sure that like they're getting my best quality that I have and not
Right.
anything distracted. Because even though it's still good, it's like, yo, it could be better. And then I would say the biggest thing, so I'm working on my second business venture, opening up a shared office and co-working space. So one of the good things that, I mean, pandemic's terrible, right? But one of the good things that happened was I was able to kind of focus and like this dream that I had from like high school, like pull it off the shelf, really
Really.
put some time, some energy into it. I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if everybody can like come to one place and just work, do what they have to do, and then dip out and everything else. So I had that maybe senior year of high school. It wasn't until I graduated college I heard the term co-working. So I was like, cool, because I always wanted to open it up. So the name is Ambition Center. Had like got that in high school,
Yeah.
but I was able to really just take time, focus, figure out what I needed to do as far as, hey, what about location? What about funding? What about getting a business plan? Never
Right.
wrote a business plan a day in my life, man. Yeah,
It's
and I like writing, like,
it's deep.
but it's
Business plan is
different.
deep, man.
Exactly. So doing some of those things. So actually like taking that time and being focused, but also just being intentional with my time, because I could have kind of half did it, half passively did everything. And it'll probably be a year from now before I actually like have anything, if
Right.
that. But like, no, let me approach this a little bit differently. So those are like
And
some tangible things I'm able to do.
that
Kind of
thing you said
pursuing it.
about time,
Yeah.
like, you might have learned what you need to learn, or what you learned by now in your
Mm-hmm.
PMP, or your business venture at the Ambition Center,
Correct.
the Ambition Center.
Yeah.
But it might have been the wrong time. You might
Mm.
have missed the building that you just secured. You might not
Yeah.
have got the promotion or the opportunity when your PMP, when you finally got it, was
Yeah.
available then. So that's why like the intensity and that time variable is so important, because yeah, you put in this work now, but you don't want to waste it because you missed the opportunity, even though opportunities come all the time. But the next opportunity might be 10 years from now, the right place.
Might
But
be.
because you put in that work
Yeah.
in this time, in this space, you're ready for the opportunity when it showed itself to you.
Yeah, thank you. And you mentioned promotion. That's how you know you're a real friend. We actually cool in real life.
What you mean?
I got a promotion too, like that
Yeah.
happened this year. So it actually in project management. So I was just like, oh wait, I got the PMP, but cool. But yeah, definitely like that manifests itself to a promotion,
There
role,
you
more
go.
responsibility. So cool. I was like, I didn't even think about that. So shout out
And
to you.
that deep work. That's that deep work. Dive into your friends, man. For me, I'm gonna have my little moment.
Okay, go ahead, man.
I just of course I just finished my book, and it took me 8 years to do it. So of course that means there's a lot of procrastination in that.
Makes sense.
But I started to think back while I was reading this book, like the most productive times that I had writing were when I just put everything away. Honestly, the best times I had writing were, I used to fly a lot,
Okay.
would be on the plane when I can't go anywhere. My phone doesn't work. I don't want to talk to the person next to me. And I'm just typing away next to them. They probably hated me because everybody want to turn the lights out, but my computer bright. Yeah. But on the plane, I would get like an hour and a half, 2 hours, just pure writing. And it just, I used to be like, man, I wish I can get this zone all the time. But it's because I wasn't setting myself up for it. I wasn't allowing myself to turn my phone off. I wasn't secluding myself for a certain amount of time. But toward the end of the process, I started to do those things. I started to, hey, look, I'm going to write right now. And that's it. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't ask if I'm hungry. I am, but I'm working. So I like reading this book. I was like, that's exactly what that was. That's exactly what I was doing to get through to the finish line of becoming an author. And that's what we're all going to have to do as we continue to progress to the things that we want to do. Because honestly, my next role would be a project manager. Like right now, I'm an assistant project manager. My next role would be a project manager. The way to get to that is diving to the work that I'm doing now and learn as much as I can with the intensity that I've done in so many other things. And that way, when I have those conversations with my subs or conversations with prospective owners, I'm educated, I'm confident, and the opportunities, the flow will be there. But if I don't do it now and I waste the time, then when those opportunities come, I'm gonna be behind.
Gotcha.
So
it makes sense.
It was crazy when I had that epiphany and reading this book. It actually like triggered me, like, yo, it's time to go. It's time to get. You thought you was working, nah, bro. You got to get in there.
Exactly. So yeah, that's very interesting because they gave a couple examples with just authors, journalists. They even mentioned someone else who literally bought a plane ticket to Tokyo and back just to write. Spent $4,000 on a plane ticket because that's when he was his most productive self.
Yeah.
Didn't even stay in Tokyo. Came back. Yep. Like got some food, got out because they got to make you be playing, right? Came back. It's like, yo, it was worth it.
And got 16 hours of writing in.
Man, it finished on the way back. Yeah. Like that's super impressive. I'm a plane sleeper. I'm just like, let me just go. I'm just trying to sleep somewhere. I'm doing like, oh, can you tell him to close that laptop? Like they're like, nah, we can't tell him that. But yeah, so if we talk about the second book, Mr. Author, I'll just speak it. No, I don't even know when it's coming, right? Did you see anything as far as like what you plan on doing? Anything that you learned? Is it like, hey, I need to go? I don't think you're going to buy a $4,000 plane ticket just to go write. But as far as like deep work or J.K. Rowling to just seclude herself for a couple weeks to go and finish Harry Potter, or like any takeaways, like, hey, moving forward, this is what I would do.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it really goes back to what you said earlier about being it's a combination of both of us. So being journalistic, but then also being bimodal. So like I'm already naturally a bimodal person, but I also got to be successful in the other areas of my life, building my house, building a relationship with my wife, work. So scheduling that time and just saying, hey, look, this fits in the schedule of my life, of all the things I'm trying to do. Let me take this time to get an hour and a half, 2 hours down. But then I also got to be mentally ready and available. So when I find a random spot of opportunity to be able to get into it, I think both of those combined, I've already got an outline of book number 2. So now it's just putting the meat in on the bones. And you do that by spending time. A book doesn't just come, like a book of the depth that I put out doesn't just come by like, hey, I'm gonna sit down and it be done in tomorrow. It takes time, it takes thought, but the continual process of writing creates those, it brings back the memories, but it also brings back the overthought of the perspective of an instance, because I can write what happened easily,
Mm-hmm.
but diving into the writing gets you to thinking like, okay, but what does it mean? How does
Okay.
it affect? How did it affect me moving forward? How can somebody else learn from this instance? Like, yeah, I caught a ball, but everything that it took to go catch that ball,
Mm-hmm.
to go catch that dream, somebody else can learn from it. Somebody else can grow from it. I need to spend the time to be able to portray it to them in a way that they can understand, they can grasp it. If I just write down, I caught a ball, I went to the NFL, I went to the Grey Cup, I
Yep.
got cut. Like that's not enticing. You're not gonna catch on and learn anything from it,
Mm-hmm.
except you might remember I caught a ball. But if I tell you that I dropped 1,000 before,
Whew.
and then
So
every
far.
time that I ran a route, I got just a little bit closer to the ball. And every time I got on the field, and every time I got in the classroom, and I got so much closer to that moment, and I finally connected to it on the biggest stage. See, that brings you through the struggle. It brings you through all the growth, the journey to get to the moment, the instance. So that's the things that I like to dive into in my deep work of writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it, man. So it's not just deep work, like let me go and finish to be done, but I think you
Oh,
kind of bring in more, more deep, more depth. There we go, right?
yeah.
To what you're actually delivering and what you're writing, as opposed
Right.
to having to go and rewrite it. That's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
like it, man.
That's how that process was. It was like I wrote the book, but then it was like, okay, let me dive into my own story.
Okay.
And then let me dive into how somebody else can perceive my story. And then let me dive into the lessons that my story could present. And then that's how you get underrated, the route they call it NFL dream.
Perfect.
Bang bottom. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is the
Yeah.
complete opposite of deep work. And we kind of mentioned it. But why is shallow work such um so distracting, so um degrading to our growth? And from your perspective, like, why is my phone going off and me taking a quick peek at it? Like, why is that so negative?
Yeah. So one, I know he also speaks about getting comfortable with boredom. So it's okay to just be bored, right? I think now we're in this more hyper connected
Yeah.
world. So I think it's a couple things. One is just talks about when you're there, when you're super distracted, like you're not showing up as your higher self. Um, and then I forget the word for it that they use, but essentially, like when you jump from situation to situation or task to task, like your mind's still on the other task.
Right.
So you're not even so even though you think, oh, that meeting ended, let's go. Like, nope, we're going now. I'm already distracted from the other work that I've done, but
Yeah.
let me go. Like that just happens naturally to us as humans. But now I'm super like hyper distracted by my phone, by this, by that. And you're not really building that muscle memory to like to go deeper, to think deeper, to deliver at a higher level. So similar to just building habits, right? So if we continue to only be in shallowness, like that's all we're gonna like project back out to the world.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. An example they gave was Bill Gates. Like he went away for X amount of time to the and that's when he created the first like basic code, which is the
Right.
first programming
Right.
language, which is now a multi-billion-dollar company known as Microsoft. So like imagine if he was distracted, right?
Right.
Imagine how much further we wouldn't be.
How long it would have
Be
taken him to do that?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like we might have been, it might have been 10 years ago now. We might be, iPhone 1 right now
Right.
in
Exactly.
2021. So I think that's the biggest thing right there is just like we're kind of hurting our contributions to the world or hindering them or delaying them. So maybe we're
Yeah.
just delaying them, right? By not showing up, by not dedicating that time. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing.
I once heard. I don't think it was this book. I think it was a book I read previously that
Okay.
for every 1 minute distraction, maybe it was 2 minute distraction, it takes 7 minutes to refocus. So in my mind, I put this picture of a road trip. I got this long road trip across the country. But every time I take an exit that's not on my path, It does. You don't get back on the highway in a second.
Nope.
It takes you either got to wait at a light or you got to go make a U-turn somewhere. But all of that is time away from the progress you could have been making on that long distance road. So that's how I visualize every time I stop. And if you think about it, let's say I do that 50 times in a day. So now I'm off track 50 times 7. Somebody do some math. Yeah,
they got to send
350 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, that's what it does. It takes us away from the attention that we're trying to give. And then, like I said, when you're diving into something, those thoughts build off of each other. You're starting to see something and you're like, oh, I get a little deeper. I made a distraction. I made a detour. I don't get a chance to make that thought. Or if I do, it's further down the line and I wasted time. So that's why I feel like it's so important that I learned about this concept deep work, but that we also implement this concept of deep work, because the distractions that we run into are going to slow us down in our goals, our dreams, our connections, our learning. And all it takes, and they say the masters of deep work only do 4 hours a day. If you can manage 2 hours of intense deep work a day, it can be so transformative, transcendent to our lives. And I've seen it happen in my life. It sounds like Marcell you've been doing some deep work, because I can see it manifesting in your life. But this concept we've got to promote and understand a lot better as a whole, to help us all grow. That's the goal. We all want to grow.
Exactly. Like, would you want a shallow working doctor? you on the table. He or she, they need no distractions. Like, let them do what they're supposed to do and kind of keep going. So how do we kind of bring that same level of rigor to all our professions, right? Regardless of what you're doing, do it. And like you said, like, you maximum, because we all got capacity. We can only do deep work for so long. And like you said, the masters can only do 4 hours. So as a beginner, like, can we do 30 minutes?
Give me 30 minutes.
Hour? Can we get it? Yeah, it is just, and it's all a practice. So the book also just talks about routine. So, which you're good. You're the routine king. Like, you got it. You got all the systems, the scheduling and everything else. Me, I'm a little bit like, have a system for the week and then next week it changes. So just having some of those things little by little and allowing it to just build off each other. Because, like, honestly, going a whole hour without like any social media, not texting anybody, not getting up to get anything to drink, just it's difficult. Like,
it is.
Yeah. So it's like, yo, can we get up to an hour? Can we get up to 2? Not to say like you need to master it, but just understand the benefits of just, performing deeply.
Yeah. I think to piggyback on that, and I'm a big person on passion and goals and drives and things that your why. Like, that's why we have to attach ourselves to those things that give us the energy. Because I can go to my job and it be a struggle to get into deep work, but I can go start writing. I got on the board last week that what I sent you. 2 hours of work. Like, it's nothing. I was enjoying myself. I was in there because it was something that I'm passionate, I'm connected to. So that's why I feel like we have to, because once we start doing that and diving in, we start to grow exponentially in the spaces that we want to be in. And then we can find the success that we want to have. Even though there's a space for finding a way to get into deep work in a place that you don't really have that passionate connection with, because that develops real, true discipline to say, hey, I don't really like this, but I'm gonna dive into it and learn as much as I can out of it. That takes something. But I feel like if we learn to do it in a space that we do enjoy, we understand the benefits of doing it, and we can take it to the other areas of our life that may not be as enticing to us.
Makes sense. Nah, I'm with it. Like you just said, if it's something that you not passionate about and you're still doing, like, that's next level. That's goals, man.
Yeah,
that's goals. So it's just I just see it's kind of overall benefit of like implementing some aspect of deep work, right? figure it out. Maybe it is shutting everything off for a little bit, or maybe it's just scheduling. I'm just gonna do an hour of deep work right now, whatever that passion is, whatever that goal is, whatever that profession is. And it might be that motivation, like you just said, something that you don't like. Maybe that 1 hour of deep work, maybe you'll figure out how to get out of it. Maybe you'll figure out your next move. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know, but it's kind of when you allow yourself just to start to think a little bit deeper and kind of go there, then just start to open up your mind. So I think that's the thing I'm most excited about. Is like the mind is kind of limitless.
Right.
So if you spend a little bit more time with yourself, with your thoughts, and doing some things, you just could take off out of nowhere. So yeah.
Let me, and then we're about to get out of here, but
Okay.
you said something about being okay being bored. And there's this concept of meditation out there. How do you blend meditation with boredom and deep work? Because I've tried to meditate on a consistent basis, and it's that word, it's boring. But I feel like there's something in the depths of meditation that is truly valuable. And I've caught glimpses of it, but I haven't committed all fully. What's your take on meditation, boredom, deep work?
Man, meditation is definitely difficult. I think more so for us because we have so many things that we're able to do. But it's definitely important. Even if I know it's between watches and apps, just do a couple minutes, just do there. And then eventually, similar to deep work, take baby steps, right? Similar to being bored, and the reason why it just helps with kind of with deep work, because we just talked about it. Your mind is still on your last meeting, your mind is still on. You said a sub just called you not too long ago, right? So all of that stuff is kind of occupying your mind a little bit, or it takes 7 minutes to get refocused, right? From being distracted. So it's going to take a little bit of time, and getting into deep work is boring, right? But we're living in this time now where you literally never have to be bored. You can pick up your phone, you can watch a show, you can watch YouTube, you can listen to music, you can get on social media. You don't have to sit with boredom at all. It's probably one of the first times in history where you don't have to. But then your mind starts to say, "Hey, I'm bored. Let me go do something else.
I'm bored. Entertain myself.
Exactly.
Let me stimulate myself.
Yep. Bored stimuli. And it's sometimes our brains need to just relax and not be overstimulated. You see that with children, babies all the time. Sometimes they're out, especially think about it now, all of the children born during the pandemic, they've been home. So they go their first festival, they nope, we overstimulated. So as adults, we don't think about it as much because we know how to cope and deal with everything. But sometimes our brains become overstimulated. So we need to train our brains to hey, it's okay to be bored. It's okay for, you're out to dinner with somebody, they go to the restroom, you're not in your phone, figuring oh, it's okay to just kind of sit there, be, and everything else. And I think it's something that needs to be learned, because we got it's here. I got 2 phones. I could be double distracted. So work phone. I see you, Kevin Gates. So it's very simple. So I mean, it's very easy to just go do that. But as we start to learn, okay, cool, we could be we can be bored. Now it's kind of giving our mind permission to say, hey, we can start thinking. We can start thinking about this. We can start doing, because instead of thinking oh, we need to get out of this. We bored. We need to go do something. It's just no, we bored. We can start thinking about, hey, what about the next page of that book? What about that business? What about this? What about, starting this? What about whatever it might be? Maybe it's the problem you couldn't solve at work for a week, and maybe you're still, and it's just okay, now some things are coming to me. So similar. Yeah, so similar premise, right, to meditation is hey, after you reach a certain space, you start to unlock some things because your mind is just there, it's able to free flow and everything else. So
I heard 2 words in what you said. Patience. Us learning and maintaining and growing our patience. I feel like that is a byproduct of learning deep work, being patient with the process. and
That's good.
to get to the goal, to get to the solution, to get to whatever is down there in the depths of the work. Learning that
Some down there.
patience. Yeah, but then you can also transfer that patience to conversations with people, to really dive into conversations and be patient with what they're thinking, their thought process, their delivery, and y'all can kind of grow from there. Being patient with your son, like
Mhm.
like you diving into his life, but you can be patient with his development, with him trying to get seven words out and it take him 5 minutes. Like
Mhm.
you being patient, learning patience, developing your patience through just the work that you're doing, the deep work. And also the second word was, it's one of my favorites right now, is serendipity.
Okay.
It's being able to be in the mental space of thinking, and having the patience to go through the thoughts
Yep.
to unlock something that you had never thought of. I mean, that's honestly, I make videos every week. That's my
Mhm.
intent.
Okay.
And most of them are generated from some serendipitous moment of me just
Mm.
sitting back and looking and thinking about, like, yo, I just talked about a baby this morning.
Yeah.
A baby, they learn this word, mine. This is mine. A 1'2" baby will stand up to a 6'5" man because it's mine. But what if you thought about your goals and your dreams the same way?
Mm.
Like, no matter what obstacle stands in front of you, it may look insurmountable, but that's your goal. That's your dream. That's your family that you're fighting for. Mine. Same concept. We just learned to stop hitting people.
Yeah.
So, but that's where I feel like the depths of your thoughts, the depths of your work, the deep work, the intensity starts to generate serendipitous thoughts, serendipitous solutions in our lives.
All right, man, you got it, man.
You
That's
caught that?
profound.
You caught
Yeah,
that?
man. You just, I'm like, hey, mine. Oh, it don't matter. Like, regardless who's telling you no, regardless,
Yeah,
like, kind of standing in that authority, like, and then also think like, where do we lose it, and how do we regain it? Like,
yeah,
is it in deep thought? Is it in meditation? Is it in like right? So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking.
Good,
Got
good,
you,
man.
got you,
That's the whole
got you.
point of this right here, man. Let's think, bro. Let's think. But Marcell, man, it has been phenomenal to have you back on this show. Like our connection from what 12 years ago, however long ago,
Yeah, man.
is
Wow ago.
steady growing, man, as we grow. And it's amazing to see the things that you're doing, but also the things that you're learning in the process you're going through to get to those things. The development of your family, your intensity on developing your community, is phenomenal, bro. I continuously applaud you, continuously support you. And I appreciate you supporting this show by coming in and dropping some of your knowledge and experience and energy here. So the last thing I always say, the last question I always have is there anything else you want to tell the people?
Yeah. Let's get to work. I'll leave it there. We
Leave
talk
it
so
there.
much. Yeah, we talk so much about deep work and everything else. Like I'm there. I'm rooting for you. Let's get to work.
Yeah, I'm with it, man.
Yeah.
This has been the huddle. Marcell Jackson, professionally developed. I gotta throw that in there. Go let this man get you $13,000 more on your next salary. He'll teach you how to make sure you don't lose. What was the last post? $500,000 on overall.
Yeah, man. Those who
Yeah,
don't negotiate their salary lose $500,000 by the age of 60 just by not asking.
go talk to this man and learn how you can set yourself up, your family up for the future. It's been a pleasure. This has been the huddle. We'll catch y'all next time.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
You, and you'll be unique. You trying to be like him.